The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hola, very warm welcome to the VAR show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. Today we are going to continue the theme of interviews, and we have a very influential figure in the Indian footballing culture and also in a wider scale, I think, in the European footballing culture. As of today and hopefully in the future, we have the manager of Real Kashmir FC, Mr. David Robertson, with us. For those who do not know, Real Kashmir Football Club is an Indian professional football club based in Srinagar. Real Kashmir is the first team from Kashmir to compete in the ILeague, the first division of football in India as of now at least. And as for Mr. David Alexander Robertson, he is a Scottish football player and coach. Mr. Robertson played as a left back for Aberdeen, Rangers, Leeds United, Montrose, and also represented Scotland in the international level. As a player, Mr. Robertson won 12 trophies with Rangers, which included 6 consecutive Scottish Premier League titles. He has won 4 Scottish Cups, with 3 with Rangers and 1 with Aberdeen. He also has won 4 Scottish League Cups, 3 with Rangers and 1 with Aberdeen. Since retiring as a player, he has managed Elgin City, Montrose, Phoenix FC and then Real Kashmir FC. He also guided Real Kashmir FC to the promotion to the ILeague in their second season of existence. So without wasting much time, I would like to thank Mr. Robertson for coming on the show. Thank you and welcome to the show. First, I would like to ask you, how are you and what are you doing during this pandemic period?
Yeah, it's we're like everyone else, but a lot of people are at home in their own surroundings and with their families, and then whatever. We are sort of stuck in a hotel. It's the club owners' hotel, so it's a great hotel. But the thing is very limited, like everybody else. We can't go outside. At times, internet isn't the best, so we're doing well getting some good connection at the moment. But I just feel we're just sort of treading water at the moment, like everyone else. We just want to get home and be with our family. My mother's not well; she's terminally ill and going through chemotherapy at the moment. And we had a little bit of a scare yesterday. She went to get our 4th chemotherapy session and she couldn't get it because she had a temperature. So she got tested for coronavirus yesterday, and thankfully today that's all negative, so she can continue with her treatment next week. But it's worrying being so far away from home.
It's very difficult. So, but now I would like to take your mind away from that to some footballing questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So first, I'd like to say that you have actually achieved such a high, maybe the most of any person in India as of now. You have won around 6 to 7 Scottish leagues with Rangers. So, like, how do you find the footballing culture in India compared to, like, maybe Scotland or other places where you have played?
Yeah, I think I played in Scotland and England, and I coached in America and in Scotland as well. And I feel that I think it's the basic things in those countries you take for granted, that you think that every country in the world's got it. And then you come to India and, at times the facilities aren't great. Obviously timekeeping at times isn't the best, particularly in Kashmir, but we've managed to change these things. But we obviously, every professional level is different. And I feel that we, step by step, we're getting things better. And I think the timekeeping part was the major one for me. And I think, whereas, ones like myself, when I got married, myself and my wife bought a house and we lived together. Families don't live with, kids and what have you. And I think, we had times when, players couldn't come to training because they were maybe, somebody was ill, a father-in-law or a cousin. It's a very family-oriented place. And what's funny, in times like this, I could just imagine, in Scotland, like generations together in one household, but that doesn't happen. You're all stuck in your own house. So those are the things that are really different. The facilities, timekeeping, even for example, the AIFF, when Like we don't at this precise moment, we don't know how many foreign players we can have. If there's going to be an under 22 rule again this year, and obviously I'm trying to plan for next season. In Scotland, all those things, Scotland, England, America, all that is done the season prior, so you can sort of phase your way into it. So there's a lot of differences, but to be honest with you, I think for me as a coach, you have to adapt to it. You can't complain about things. Well, I don't have this. I don't have this pitch. Or it takes so long to get here. It's too hot here. You've just got to adapt, and if you don't have the facilities you need as a coach, you've just got to make the best of it and get on with it. And I think that's been the secret of the success of Real Kashmir, because it was a club that started, from nothing. We had no training grounds. We had a training ground, but no dressing rooms, no equipment, no balls, no training kit. All the players wore Manchester United, Chelsea jerseys and what have you. And it was a complete shock to me. But step by step, we're now at a club that's got a sponsor in Adidas. We've got floodlights, we've got dressing rooms. Players come on time. They get fined. They've introduced a fine system if they don't show up or they're late. There's a fine implemented. So I think we've tried to change things, but at the same time, there's certain things you can't change, I should say.
So basically, now I would like to ask you, not ask, but I would like to ask how it is. You have been basically one of the major persons who have laid the founding stone for Real Kashmir to become a household name in the ILeague today. They finished, I think, third last season. So how would you describe your time at the club?
Well, I think the first time I arrived in Kashmir, I came from the USA and arrived in January 2017. I knew nothing about India. I thought everywhere in India was hot. And obviously I arrived in January in Kashmir. Within 2 days there was snow. And just the culture, because I'd never known anything other than the Western world. Internet was virtually non-existent. There was power cuts at that time of the year. Obviously the winter time, it was cold. So, you get up in the morning, it's cold, you try to make a cup of coffee, but there's no electric. And then you're cold at night, you've got electric blankets, but the power's out, so you can't put the electric blanket on. And then just the culture, I know when we went to the owner's house, the first time that I was there, they eat on the floor, they eat with their hands, and it's just completely, foreign to me. But the people at that point, I didn't know them, and it was quite intimidating, quite scary. And I think I lasted about 3 weeks, went home, and then I was persuaded to come back, and I did that, and then I trained the team. At that point, it was all the school of local Kashmiris. I hadn't even played League Two there at that point. Then we took the team to Scotland, and it was a great lesson for them, even just as people learning how other countries are, because virtually none of them had ever stepped outside India, probably never stepped outside Kashmir, let alone the other parts of India. So that was a big thing for them. And then, because the club was so new and the people were great, I continued it. We went to the ILeague 2, and again, I'm new to the country. I don't know the leagues, don't know ILeague 2, nothing. So we had tryouts in Kolkata with some local players, a couple of foreign players, and against all odds, we managed to win ILeague 2, which was a great achievement within itself. And then, after that, and I think because where Kashmir is situated up in the north, and obviously it's well documented the troubles that Kashmir, Srinagar have on a weekly, monthly basis, shutdowns and strikes and all sorts of things. I think it's became a pretty remarkable story that not even just in India, all over the world. Even I get emails and messages from USA, Europe, Spain, UK, all over the world. So I think and obviously we've done 2 documentaries. The second one's going to get aired on BBC next week, I think on the 12th. I think there's even a Bollywood movie being made about the rise of Real Kashmir. So it's it's just great to be a part of such a great story, and all of it has been based on hard work and obviously a lot of luck and just sticking with it. And I think we found it very difficult this past season. We finished fourth with a game in hand. We might have ended up second. I think for that, this season in particular, it's the first time that we've ever been favourites to win games. We've always been underdogs. We've always found it, my first thought in the ILeague the first year was avoid relegation. And then the same this next year. And we finished third, but then suddenly there's expectations. We played against Crowd, who this year. And for the first time in the short history of the club, we were actually favourites to win a game. And I think we found it difficult. The players found it very difficult. Suddenly there's an expectation. Even the crowds have been incredible. ILeague 2, we're a new club. No one knew about us. So eventually what happened was we had 200-300 men coming to games just to watch football, just an escape from daily life in Kashmir. And then we get to ILeague 2, and what happens? We get over 20,000 at games, and suddenly there's men, women, and grandchildren, school kids, you name it, coming, and it's just that it's a fantastic atmosphere. Win, lose or draw, and I've sort of played in a lot of great arenas throughout my career, but in Kashmir, when the passion of the supporters were just absolutely incredible, and it just makes it. Obviously the season finished early this year. Last season we had two home games that never took part. Punjab and East Bengal, we play them in Delhi. So it's a great privilege and an honour to play home games, and just the situation. Obviously now with the current pandemic, we can't play any more games at home. I think the 3 left. So it's just that, as I say, it's great, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of the story.
So moving on to the league, how competitive is the ILeague?
Well, I think you saw the past 2 years. I remember when we were in League 2, I watched, paid close attention to the ILeague, and I noticed the year before we got in, there was 4 teams could win the league on the last day. For the year Minerva Punjab won it. I think there was East Bengal, maybe Churchill. No, I think Churchill got relegated that year. Maybe Naraka could have won it. And then last season, Chennai won the league, but it was close. Other than that, I think we were the only team to beat Chennai City. We beat them twice. And then this season, it was the most bizarre season ever. We could have had 2 or 3 bad results, and you're fighting relegation. And then if you look at the league, how it finished, obviously Mohun Bagan were thoroughly deserved to win the league. They were very strong and consistent and very difficult to break them down. And then obviously Indian Arrows ended up bottom, but there's no relegation for them. But the other 9 teams, 5 games to go, any one of the 9 teams could have finished second, and any one of the 9 teams could have finished, bottom, basically getting relegated. So it's a very, very, competitive league, and you can't predict anything. You can't predict results. You'll find. I remember there was a stage one year when Churchill beat Mohun Bagan, and then some team beat Churchill, and then that team, somebody else beat the team that beat Churchill, and that's what we found. It's just, I don't know if it's inconsistency, but it's just the quality is that on any given day, anyone can beat anyone.
Okay, so now I'll talk about the infrastructure. What is the condition of footballing infrastructure in India, according to your experience?
I think the structures, it's good. As I said at the start, the hard part for me is trying to plan things. We're trying to plan ahead for next season, but at this point we don't know. Obviously, first of all, because of the pandemic, we don't know when we can start the league. But also, we don't know how many foreign players there are. Is there still going to be an under-22 rule? And I like to plan things in advance and get things sorted out so we're prepared to go. Last season, we didn't know when the ILeague was actually going to start, because of the ISL, the ILeague. Obviously, that at some point they're going to merge, and there's a little bit of maybe a lot of people were unsure as to how it was all going to play out. So our league was meant to start mid-October. It started in November, and I think we played our first game in December. So we all joined up in Gerrard's Cup in early August, and we had like a 5-6 month pre-season, and it ended up longer than what the season is. And I just think maybe the planning, for me is the hardest part. I know the Super League is probably, one of the best leagues in Asia, and that's obviously it's a corporate league that's very well organised, and I think just the AIFF and the ILeague in general, there just needs to be a little bit more, think in advance. And what I would suggest to them is maybe, and they get all the clubs together, an owner and the coach, and decide how the next season's going to be, maybe halfway through the a current season. But I just think the trying to organise and plan in India is very, very difficult. And I know that Igor Slimak's come in. He's obviously wanting to improve the national team after Stephen Constantine sort of brought them up a good bit. So I think his idea is less foreigners and all that kind of things, which I don't know if it's, for me as a coach, it's difficult. You sort of rely a lot on the international players or foreign players, and I do think that those guys do, they rub off good habits on the Indian players. I know particularly in Kashmir, our local players who didn't even know what professional football is, you bring in, professional players from other parts of the world, and suddenly their habits change. They're on time, they're actually stretching before games, they eat better. It's just completely different, and I think it should be a long time until they start to reduce the foreign quota, I think.
So now you have household names like Mohun Bagan, which is huge in terms of Indian football, and even in terms of Asian football as such. Mohun Bagan is a huge name. So they are jumping into ISL, or you can call them merging with ATK. Do you think this will hamper the publicity of the league?
I think it's good for Mohun Bagan. To be honest, Mohun Bagan and East Bengal, the oldest and most famous clubs in India, and I think they had deserved to be on the top stage. But I think in terms of the league, when you look at the league in the past, up until this season when Mohun Bagan won the league, I don't think East Bengal or Mohun Bagan have ever won the league. In all the times that I remember, there's been Aiswal, there's been Punjab, Churchill Brothers, Chennai City won it last year. So I don't think the quality will dwindle. I think maybe the sort of overall picture of the ILeague might be drop a little bit because the two giants of Indian football have moved up. Because I don't know if East Bengal are moving, but I've heard rumours that they're going to move up. But it gives everybody else the chance to move on. We just focus on ourselves. I mean, we're only 2-3 years into our existence, so we've just got to, if those teams are out, we've got to try and grab our chance to go and try and compete and win the championship. And I know at some point, I think there's a plan over the next few years. It's, one or two teams each year move up to the ISL. So we're obviously a very ambitious club. We've obviously won ILeague 2. We did well in ILeague. We'd like to sort of go a step better next season and really sort of, because I've noticed a lot of clubs in India, they win the league 1 year and then they sort of disappear after that. But we want to keep the sort of story going. There's a lot of people said at the start it was a bit of a fairy tale, and my owner said to me once, he says it's not a fairy tale anymore because fairy tales end, and this story has to keep going. And as I say, the Sandeep Chatu, the owner, is a very, very ambitious man, and he'll do whatever it takes to get the club as reach its full potential.
So when you started in 2016-17 season, I think Real Kashmir recorded a record attendance of 600 I think it was in League 2, and with no kit sponsor, and as of now your highest recorded attendance is 11,206 in 2018-19, and now you have giants like Adidas as a kit sponsor. How do you describe the journey? Like, you have been through thick and thin.
Yeah, I think, as I said before, I don't think there's been any expectations. We just took each game as it came, and no one thought we'd win ILeague 2, and then obviously we did well in ILeague. In the first ILeague, I felt we just became a team that was difficult to beat or to be beaten, and I think we achieved that. We finished third, and teams found it very difficult to break us down and get results against us. And maybe if things had gone a little bit different come the end of that season, we might even have been successful in winning the league. but I just think it's been great being a part of it, because we've started off with from virtually nothing, as I said before, no dressing rooms, nothing. Adidas are now involved, and even, I mean, you mentioned the crowds of 11,000, but we actually last season we got a crowd in one game of 26,000, and they have to lock people out. And this season, attendances have been lower based on the fact that because of the Article 370 and the crowding and things like that, we have to restrict crowds. But it's I've been in a lot of great stadiums, full houses and whatever, but the atmosphere is incredible. You can just see the excitement, the passion. I think I know, just no disrespect to East Bengal and Mohammedan, there was 80,000 at games. I was at a game before, and believe it or not, I didn't feel, the atmosphere, the passion. But these Kashmiris have just got everything. The club's almost in their blood now, and we're obviously a big name in Kashmir and even in Indian football. But it's just been a fantastic journey, and I don't think anyone has ever would ever believe that we've got this far, and we've achieved what we've achieved. The Adidas thing was huge. I think it's the only football team in India that's sponsored by a massive brand, and they obviously approached us, and there's documentaries, there's TV shows, there's all sorts of things about us, and I think obviously a lot of it's down to the people of Kashmir and also the owner of the club as well, who's put his heart and soul into it. And I've never known, worked with, played for an owner like the one we've got at the moment. He's so passionate about the club, and every player gets treated the same. And he's been very good to me. He's obviously a very, very good friend. We always feel like a little bit like a family. And then when you look at a lot of teams in India, particularly in the ILeague, the amount of times they change coaches. Sometimes ILeague teams go through coaches, maybe one or two a season. I think this is now, next season will be my fourth season. So it's obviously that's a big statement as well, a little bit of consistency. But at the moment it's working, and as I say, Sandeep wants this story to keep going and hopefully get to ISL, AFC Cup. There's so many possibilities, and he doesn't just want to say, okay, we're an ILeague team, let's settle for that. He wants to keep going and going and going.
So if you had to describe yourself as a coach, what description would best suit your team?
I can be volatile a little bit when it needs to be, like most coaches can. But I think what we've managed to do here is, base a team on hard work. We lose the ball, we get behind the ball. A difficult team to break down. But I think the one thing we need to add to our game is goals. Last season we had the best goal difference, or sort of the best defensive record. This season, I think barring maybe Mohammedan, we might have had the best defensive record again. But we don't score enough goals. So I'm a very defence-minded coach, but I think now we've established ourselves, we need to change a little bit and be a little bit more offensive and create more chances, score goals, while at the same time being difficult to beat. But I think I'm a players' coach. I tend to get on with a lot of the players. We have a laugh and a joke. We look after them socially, and obviously you need to have a bit of discipline as well. We do that as well, but I think that first and foremost you've got to make sure that players want to play for you and the club, and I think we've achieved that pretty much over the past 3 years.
Okay, like what is your go-to formation in games? Like maybe if you have to go for a game tomorrow, what is your go-to formation?
We normally play 4-2-3-1, which ends up a 4-4-2. That's the way it's mostly been. But again, this season, I think as soon as we lose possession of the ball, we just retreat and become very difficult to break through lines and all kind of stuff. But it's normally that. But I think if there's times when we are, a goal down or whatever, we'll play three at the back and we'll push players forward. But we tend to have a bit of a structure in the defensive third, the midfield third, and then the final third, the attacking third. It's the players have got to express themselves, be unpredictable, do their own thing, and it's worked. But it's I think I was once told by a famous manager, Alex Ferguson, that I played for before, that your first ever coaching job will determine what type of coach you are. And I took a team in the bottom of the third division in Scotland, Elgin City, and they were always bottom, so I had to sort of create a defensive mentality so we wouldn't lose games, we'd only draw games. And I think at the back of my mind, I sort of go into games thinking, it's better not to lose, because I've got this philosophy that if you don't concede goals, you're always going to get a chance to score.
Okay, so another tacticalist question is: do you prefer man marking or zonal marking for your team?
Well, I think set plays, we do a bit of both. We do half of it is man marking, half of it is zonal marking. And in the general on the play, it's mainly zonal marking. Oh, not it's just zones, trying to stop gaps, trying to stop opponents, play through gaps. But I think we play deep as a back four, so there's no space in behind, and it's worked. But the only problem with that is it's sometimes it can be difficult to get up the pitch, quick enough.
Okay, so now we'll move on to your career as a whole. If you had to choose one highlight of your playing career and your coaching career each, one highlight each, what would they be?
I think coaching-wise, it's easy. I think winning the ILeague 2 was fantastic. Just the fact that we didn't even have a team, and the team that we won, I think, in the final game there was 7 Kashmiris in the starting 11. We had a couple of foreign players, but basically we had a lot of players that no one wanted, and somehow we managed to, in the lowest budget in ILeague 2. Everybody didn't take us serious. With good clubs like Hindustan, Delhi United against us, Ozone. Established clubs that just can't get to that ILeague stage. And again, we're underdogs, but just to win it, we went that whole season unbeaten, and we played. I think there was one game in particular that really stands out for me. Was we were playing Ozone, and there was a English guy, Dave Booth, was the manager there. So there was a bit of Scotland-England rivalry. It was documented a little bit in the newspapers at the time. So we were 2-1 down with probably 2 minutes to go, and we equalised. We made a substitution, we equalised 2 each, and then myself and Jimmy, my assistant, were shouting at the players, "Okay, we'll take a draw. Just sit back." But my players had different ideas, and they kept going, and we were panicking, thinking we're going to lose a goal here. But no, they kept going, and about the 5th minute of injury time, Big Bernard from Ivory Coast scored the winner. And after the game, Dave Booth, who's a great guy, been around the game a long time. We remember seeing him, how deflated he was. That basically killed a big club like Ozone their chances. And that was a fantastic achievement when we actually beat Hindustan in the last game of the playoffs. That was fantastic. And as for a player, I think the biggest achievement was at Rangers. We won the treble in 1992. And I don't know if you know the rivalry between Rangers and Celtic, the Protestant and Catholic kind of thing. And they're both in Glasgow, so anytime we beat Celtic, it's fantastic. And then I previously played for Aberdeen as a kid, and moved to Rangers, which was like joining the devil. And we won the treble that year. So we won the League Cup early on the season, and it was against Aberdeen. We then won the league. Second place was Aberdeen. And then because the national stadium where the cup finals are, I normally played at Hampden, it was getting redone, so we're playing at Celtic Stadium. So the final game, basically for the treble, the Scottish Cup final was played at Celtic Park. We were in the home dressing room. I was playing against my old team, Aberdeen, and we clinched the treble, which was a great achievement. And during that season, we went 44 games unbeaten, and we got to virtually the semi-final of the the UEFA Champions League. So I think it's not so much one game, but the whole season was just perfect. Obviously when you leave a club, there's a bit of bitterness between yourself and the club, or vice versa. But to Aberdeen, probably that season had enough points to win the league any other season. But it was just for me, it was great. Obviously your old team, you pick them all the time, and then to win the treble, which is a big deal, in your sort of biggest rivals' stadium, in their own home dressing room, made it all that more special.
So, do you have any coach or coaches from whom you take inspiration or you look up to?
I think there's two in particular. Alex Ferguson, who I assigned schoolboy forms at 13, and he left at Manchester to go to Manchester United when I was 19. He gave me my first team debut in Aberdeen when I was 17, and he wanted to take me to Manchester United with him. That wasn't possible. Aberdeen wouldn't let me go. But I just think for him, it's his dedication. I've been around a lot of coaches and managers in my time, but even he's obviously his younger days there. His team beat Real Madrid, Aberdeen, virtually not a well-known club, a provincial club in Scotland, and they beat Real Madrid in the European Cup Winners' Cup. They beat Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals. So that was huge, and a lot of it was done with home talent. Kids brought up in Aberdeen. So, but his desire to be successful, he would watch under 12 games. He'd watch all sorts of football. He'd travel 300 miles in one evening to go and watch a game. He'd take every training session. He'd watch the youth team train. He'd watch the schoolboys train. He'd just watch everything. And I think that's, more than anything, it's the dedication that he had to the game. And it was no surprise to me that he became probably one of the best coaches or managers in the whole world. And then obviously when I was at Rangers, a very successful period with Walter Smith. And his biggest thing was he had a lot of stars in his team and his squad, and he had a great knack of keeping people happy, players happy, even if they're not playing. Big names that are maybe a sub and they're not playing. Great man management that way. But I think what he was very good at hiding pressure, because at Rangers you were expected to win every single game. I remember a period we lost to Falkirk, which is a low-level team. In the League Cup, we lost to Celtic, our bitter rivals, and we got knocked out of the Champions League qualifiers, and AET Athens beat us. And the amount of pressure he was under, people calling for him to get sacked, and he never showed it in the dressing room. He was the first manager I ever played for that never showed any weakness, never showed any fear or apprehension, and he kept all the pressure away from the players. It was business as usual, and I think I've taken a bit from both coaches.
And okay, so we'll talk of Rangers a little bit. What do you think of Steven Gerrard at Rangers? How is he doing, according to you?
Yeah, he's done well so far. He's got to a point where he started really well, and then there was the winter shutdown, obviously halfway through the season, and suddenly after that they came back and they couldn't get back into rhythm. They couldn't win games. They were losing or dropping points against teams that they should be doing better against. So, but I think because who he is, he'll get time, because he's such a big name. He's got a bit of presence about him, so he'll get a little bit of time. Previous managers, I know there was Mark Warburton and Pedro Coutinho, that I think they were beat before they got in because they weren't a big name. But Steven Gerrard, it reminds me a lot about Graham Souness when he came to Rangers in the mid-80s. Obviously a famous player, he's come in, he's done a great job. But like everything else, when the season starts up again next season, he has to be winning the leagues or winning cups. Because if you don't do that at Rangers, eventually your time's going to run out.
Okay, so in the ILeague, which is one ground or team which you do not like playing against? Like they are like your, they are the most difficult and they play the best against you?
I think for places, Iswell's the toughest place. The first time I went there 2 years ago, it takes you forever to get there, and it's a city that's built on a hill, and you can actually see the stadium from the hotel, but it takes you about 3 hours to get there. And obviously the pitch isn't the best. It's an AstroTurf pitch. It's well worn. It's almost like a hockey pitch. So, when you look at it, no matter how good or bad Isleworth are doing in the league, you always know when you go there that it's a lottery. You just got no idea how the result's going to go. And I think just the whole procedure of getting there, the pitch, everything, and obviously it's boiling hot when you get there as well. So that's the hardest place I think to go as a team. I think the hardest team to play against is Punjab, because they're very similar to ourselves. They sort of grind you to death a little bit. There's not a lot of fluid football. They try and stop you playing, wait for mistakes. And after that game, mentally as a coach, you've been in a game against them. They don't give much away. And it's no surprise that, a couple of years ago they won the league. Last season they didn't have a great season. This current season, they've got a good chance like ourselves to finish second. But they're just a very, very difficult team to play against. We spoke earlier about Mohammedan East Bengal, but they're obviously giants. But it's actually good to play against them because if you play at Salt Lake Stadium, or even the stadium in Kalyani, it's a good surface. There's always a decent crowd there, and it's like an honour to play against those teams. So, and I know the players like to play against Churchill Brothers because they're in Goa and they might get a day at the beach and enjoy themselves. So, but it's just that I think India as a whole is so diverse. Every place you go is completely different. I certainly got an eye opener my first season in ILeague when you're going to all these places, and obviously went to Shillong as well. Coming from Srinagar to get anywhere, you need 2 flights, and sometimes it can take 2 days to get to an away game. And then suddenly you're going from -5 degrees to maybe 95 degrees in Kolkata or Goa. So it's tough for players. Obviously it's tough for coaches, but it's a fantastic experience.
So I'll ask you one final question. This is a very controversial question. Okay, whom would you prefer, Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo?
Lionel Messi, 100%, because he's a left footer because of me. I think he's more of a team player. Don't get me wrong. If I could have both of them in a Real Kashmir team, I'd take them. But I just think Messi reminds me a lot on like Diego Maradona, who was my favourite player growing up. But I just think his ability, and he's really, they're both exciting players to watch. But if someone told me I had to pick like you have, it would definitely be Lionel Messi, and maybe just because he's left-footed, but I think he's a little bit more of a team player than what Ronaldo is.
So I just want to sneak in one more question. Have you ever been awestruck in your life? Maybe meeting a player or something?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the first time I walked into, when I signed for Rangers, to let you into a little bit of Scottish knowledge, Aberdonians I come from Aberdeen, they're very reserved, quiet, shy people. And I remember the first day that I walked into the Rangers dressing room, there was all these superstars, Mark Hateley, Ali McCoist, Terry Butcher, all these guys were in the dressing room. And I just actually, for the first time, I was only 21, I just thought to myself, I shouldn't be here, I'm not good enough to be here. And then it was they let me settle in pretty quickly. But the problem was that, you've seen a lot of these players on television, big names, played for England in the World Cup, that kind of things, and it really took you a surprise that I'm actually in this dressing room. So I was, they treated me well, to be honest, but I was in a bit of a panic.
So on that note, thank you, Mr. Robertson, for talking to us. We wish you all the best for your future campaigns, and we wish you that you win all the trophies. Maybe you'll win the ILeague, the AFC Cup, and maybe you'll get drafted to Super League and win that too. And hope we can talk soon again, maybe after that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time. I've enjoyed it, and hopefully with the Real Kashmir can continue their success story.
Thank you.